sure if you can hear that. Extensive cyber torture today, Friday the 13th. Yeah, doing another review or video for a review in terms of my civilian militia exposure and the protection order that I took out in terms of one of the guys associated to me in my environment who was talking about details of my life, and then told me people were talking about me and I was effing stupid or an effing stupid, so a bit of discrimination there. And then told me, or told his friend, Nicky's dead. So I took him to court because it's better than assault, and now I'm exposed to some of the vulnerabilities within the civilian system or the legal system in South Africa, because there is no recognition for neural data interferences prior to July 2021, when the regulatory authority came into effect in terms of AI, neural data interference, data breaches, data interruptions, and things of that nature. So the protection of personal information is something that the information regulator is set to govern, and I've spoken to them, and currently experiencing the tail end of the third month in terms of a delay of receipt of an outcome letter. So there's no forward motion in terms of that, and it's a case where I'm associated with significant neural data interferences in terms of my mental integrity, in terms of mental integrity breakdowns, strategically timed. So if I'm doing something and I'm focused, then it brings cause to pause. It's in terms of exposure to these things, classified as or torture if it's associated to psychological continuity data breaches or projections in terms of brain neural nets. And these are pretty radical statements, but if we break it down into highlighting the convergence of these technologies and bringing awareness to that in terms of just incremental understandings, because going through my nervous system as a data subject is quite amazing, and getting to grips with that in terms of neural data interferences is something that's a long journey. So as data subjects, as targeted individuals, when I was subject to those threats, and I know they associated to neural data breaches projected by our state's AI apparatus, artificial intelligent computer apparatus. In South Africa, there are various fusion centers, and one of these was called the Human Capacity Development Program. It incorporated robotics, human capacity development, data subject, neural interfacing, which is just right there. I mean, in terms of the Disruptive Technologies Dialogue Conference that was held between SA and EU, highlighting their agreement, I'm quite appreciative because it does highlight the fact that this arrangement is in place, and it seems to have a long-standing and presents well into the previous regime's associations. So I'm not um, very impressed with their management of the AI systems in South Africa and medical data research that's being done through the Human Sciences Research Council in South Africa that I assert to be completely illegal and unconstitutional. And in terms of the situation in South Africa, and I mentioned that I was impressed because the warrant officer that I'd previously been associated with, in terms of having a long delay with an eventual failure of service from the police in terms of that protection orders delivery, and I then had to go back and do it again, and then one of the guys rocked up, and I had to have taken myself out of that situation in terms of my betterment of myself, and they said because there was no immediate danger in terms of the domestic violence situation, then it was out of court because the guys weren't actualizing extreme physical threat to me once I was removed from that accommodation. So it took too long. Like 3 months was insanely long for somebody who's subject to hyperstimulation, neural data interferences, electronic harassment, what they call V2K. When I saw the warrant officer, there's another hoot directly associated to reporting delays and obstructions in the investigations of torture. I'm not sure if that hoot will come through, but it turns out this application was taken against a guy who then spoke to the police and came back and threatened me again. In terms of enlistment of others, association to threats with others, and then obviously I become a little bit intimidated. You get 4 people and you start threatening me. It's not quite part of my job description, so that taking out a protection order is much easier, and then I don't associate with any of it in terms of my employment. There's another hoot, just for your association to Mr. Myron May in America. These are planned psychological continuity disruption attacks in terms of the hooting and terrible stuff. As highlighted by the Special Repertoire on Torture, they lead to data subject hyperstimulation, neural data destruction, and suicide and whatnot. So you can understand if I've been tortured too much, it might not end in my suicide. Just wait and see sort of protocol. If you're dumb enough to think they're getting intelligence in South Africa with an executive that's been threatening our regulators for the last 12 years, then they'll find the fight they have is not that easy, because the thing they utilized was very impressive. It bent my brain, and it's a good thing I know how to relax and slowly just try to pick away at this, because each day is a different battle. But the warrant officer, it turns out, has not sent the paperwork to court. So after that guy threatened me again, I went back to court, and the paperwork's not there. So I then have to go to the police station and track down the warrant officer, and he's usually only there during the morning. Otherwise, he's out serving papers or doing training or executive functions. So it's only in the morning. That's another one wasted. And these are the difficulties that data subjects in South Africa are facing in terms of securing our rights. Um, uh, yeah, the vulnerabilities of these technologies are highlighted by Ms. Rowena Rodriguez in the Journal of Responsible Technology. Her paper was entitled Legal and Human Rights Issues of AI, Gaps, Vulnerabilities and Challenges. And that's one of the things that has enabled me to kind of sift through this mess, because it gives gives me a bit more understanding about the vulnerabilities that they want to be famous. I can see if I can make them famous. And yeah, I now have to go back to the police, so that's another hurdle that I have to go through in terms of not only V2K neural data interferences that are being induced live. So in terms of neural data breaches, which are illegal and unconstitutional, it, for me, provides additional evidence supporting the fact or belief that the state was involved in an initial torture. And it's one of the things they're utilizing to try to hyperstimulate me towards data subject destruction. I mean, they can um, cause like Mark Minnie, who shot himself. I think they're very funny. But that's one of the ways to utilize AI, especially through state surveillance, to manipulate corruption in terms of decreased funding to education because of neural data breaches to third parties. You can hear these guys enjoy themselves a lot and think they're very smart. So it speaks to the motivation behind the torture and why things happened the way they did, because these people are idiots and they're supporting torture, and that done through a computer and what's termed human capacity development, neural linguistic programming or influencing. Then they can do or say or get whatever they pretty much want. And with my delay at the information regulator of SA, I have been working on my Interpol communication, but then that's been targeted, and it induces such big headaches that it's easier to sort of go out and make a scene and then get help from people who hear about it, because the videos, they don't seem to get out. But yeah, just in case they are there in terms of like right timing or something, then I'm happy they're there. And I appreciate the time to just sort of decompress, because like you hear the guy shouting and come stop their cars and stop their bikes and play loud music and hoot a lot. And yeah, I don't think these tactics are unique in South Africa. Unfortunately, with evidence provided online, there are a number of states that that kind of have associated with these things, and I just put up another video because so much shouting and so much hooting today that if I did one thing right, I went back to the cops or I went back to the court, and I found out if the papers were there, they weren't. So then it's back to the police station tomorrow, and that's another hurdle. Just in terms of straight flowing or like easy going in around South Africa. But thank you for your support. and I hope you're well, and wishing all the data subjects and targeted individuals around the world still subject to these human rights violations all the best, and I wish you well. Thank you. Bye.